Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here, welcome back to the channel for another update on Solana. So, Solana is currently in trouble. We've got quite a few things to dive into today. I want to start off on the lower time frames. We're going to talk about some new developments which are happening for the altcoin markets which do spell trouble. We're going to be looking at some on-chain metrics which for Solana have just reached new bear market lows. And then we're going to wrap up with my thoughts on what is happening in the higher time frames and what to expect next. So, first of all, let's dive into the daily time frame. There are some developments which are happening in all of the altcoin ecosystem. First of all, if we are looking at the daily time frame on a linear scale for Solana, you can see at this moment in time, Solana is coming right down and retesting this major trend line which held as support since around about $13. If you can see, if we do remove the EMA ribbon, Solana has just broken out to the upside of this falling wedge. We hit a major resistance zone in which we've been topping out. We will revisit this exact area in the macro time frame a little bit later on so you can learn more about this, but we have hit this resistance and we have started to come back down to the downside. And now we are in a worrying position where we are retesting this major trend line. And before we continue with the Solana analysis, I want to show you something which is currently happening in Ethereum, because a lot of the altcoins follow exactly what Ethereum is going to be doing. And we'll give you an example of Solana and Ethereum in just one moment. But Ethereum is also at this major trend line on the daily time frame. You can see this has been the uptrending level of support throughout the entire little rally that we've been seeing throughout 2023. We retested support, and support. But at this moment, this retest is very different from previous retests that we've seen. In previous retests where we've been running up in 2023, when we've lost the bull market support bands, you can see we've come down and found support on the trend line, and we continued up further. Over here, we lost the bull market support bands, we rocketed down to the trend line, we found support, and we moved up further. But because of the fact that the cryptocurrency markets have been pretty much stagnant, especially in Ethereum, for about 156 days now, the bull market support bands aren't having this massive expansionary phase for the altcoins which they previously have been seeing. At this moment in time, they are flatlining, and Ethereum is retesting the bottom of the bull market support bands and this trend line in correlation. So this is definitely an extremely important retest for the altcoin market. Altcoins, in my opinion, are getting ready for a nasty move to the downside. You can see if we come over to the total 2, the altcoin market on the weekly time frame, the stochastic RSI has just had its first bearish flip since all the way back up here when the altcoin market was at 665 billion. We've made a lower high. We're now having this cross round about 560 billion. So this is cause for concern. If Ethereum starts to lose this trend line, then it's very likely Solana will also lose this trend line. This is really the last line of support at $23. If we start putting in daily candle body closes beneath $23, I think the continuation back down will continue to take place. And we'll talk about price targets in a moment, but I want to show you on the higher time frames a very important chart, the Solana Ethereum chart. And this will help you understand why this Ethereum trend line, even if you don't care about Ethereum, I never chart Ethereum on my channel. If you go look at my Ethereum videos, the last one I did was probably a year ago. I don't like Ethereum. I don't care about Ethereum, but the correlation between Ethereum and other altcoins is absolutely undeniable, and this is what I want to show you and why it's important for Solana. At the top of the screen, we've got Solana Ethereum. As you can see, we have been hitting our head against this downtrending line of resistance, and quite recently, once again, we have rejected from it. And at the bottom of the screen, we've got Ethereum USD. And what I want to show you is whenever Ethereum tops out against the US dollar and comes on a breakdown to the downside, you can see I've highlighted these major peaks for Ethereum. You can see the Sol Ethereum pair also comes to the downside, and also the Sol USD pair comes to the downside. Now, out of all of these 7 scenarios, there has only been one situation right here where Ethereum broke to the downside, but Solana outperformed Ethereum. In every single other case, Solana has underperformed Ethereum, and it's underperformed against its US dollar pair. So this is definitely cause for concern. Once again, if Ethereum starts landsliding beneath its USD pair, this will spell imminent doom for the altcoin market cap. And then of course, Solana will probably underperform, just like Solana is underperforming against its Bitcoin pair, which very similarly has quite recently rallied up to this major downtrending line of resistance resistance and this double 786 Fibonacci against the Sol BTC pair. So this is what I'm seeing in the lower time frames, guys. I think we are getting ready to lose this uptrending line of support, which has been holding us up since around about $13. I think Ethereum's about to break down, and I think this does spell imminent doom and trouble for Solana. Before we move on to the higher time frames, I do want to add one more piece of fuel to the fire. If we are looking at the 4-hour time frame on the Sol USD pair, you can see in the past few weeks or so, Solana has rallied back up and it's made a high, a higher high, a higher high, and a higher high before starting to melt to the downside. Now, this does look like a BART pattern with a price target down at $22.37, which will obviously mean that Solana will be losing this uptrending line of support, but this isn't particularly what I want to show you. I want to show you that Solana currently has been making higher highs on the 4-hour time frame, while the oscillator has been getting beat down. It's been making lower highs, and lower highs. This is a sign of buyer exhaustion, and as you can see right now, the strength in the market is deteriorating as we are forming this regular bearish divergence. Now, these are not the only divergences. This is the lower time frame that I want to show you. In the lower time frame, this is kind of leading me to believe that we could come down to the price target we mentioned, round about the neckline of this BART pattern at $22.30, at which point we could come down here and, obviously lose this uptrending line of support. I will also show you this on the logarithmic chart. You might be thinking, maybe I'm only showing you it on the linear just to, have some type of bias or something. No, it's actually worse if I show you it on the logarithmic. If I go over to the logarithmic chart, you can actually see we've already lost this trend line. We rallied back up to it, retested it as resistance, and we've already broken to the downside of this. I'm only showing you this on a linear chart to really emphasize that this is absolutely the last line of support for Solana right now. So when we were looking at this chart, I told you this was a major area of resistance. But if we come over to the higher time frames, this has been resistance for a longer period of time than you can possibly imagine. If we come over to the weekly, what you can see right here is since the lows at $26 that were made on the 13th of June 2022, this area around here is very, very important. These were the bear market lows. We held it as support, we bounced back up, and then you can see this massive bearish engulfing candle. I'm sure a lot of you remember what this was. This was the FTX collapse. And what's very interesting is, as you can see, we've got the top of the range at this candle right here. This was where the FTX collapse was. We've got the bottom of the range at this previous bear market low. We've been getting rejected from this previous bear market low, and this to me looks like a quick swing failure pattern where this was the top of the range. We tried to get above it. This was an SFP, also known as a swing failure pattern. A failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction. So if we are looking at this range in terms of the candle body closes previously, we were getting rejected from the previous bear market low. As of the past few weeks or so, you can see we actually moved up to the exact price of the FTX collapse. We retested it up at $32, and now we are down at $23. This is clearly proving to be a strong level of resistance. But not only this, we talked about divergences on the 4-hour time frame, and we've got more divergences. This is once again more fuel to the fire. If we're looking at the weekly time frame, what has the price been doing? The price made a high at $25.80. In fact, we can extrapolate it back to this region here, although it's pretty much the same. We made a high, we made a higher high, but the oscillator made a high, it made a lower high, and it's currently double topping right now. So once again, another classic case of market deterioration in the form of the regular bearish divergence. This is a sign that buyers are exhausted at this moment in time, and once again, not a good sign. On the weekly time frame as well, we came up to the top of the weekly EMA ribbons, got rejected, and now if we are looking at this chart on the weekly time frame, where's the last line of support here? It is $22.17. I do also want to show you the bull market support bands. Where's the last line of support? $21.50. So in the lower time frames, if we do start to witness a breakdown from $23, which we're a tiny bit beneath at this moment in time, but we'll take it day by day. If we're still trading around about $22.90 in the next day or so, we will of course close beneath this trend line, at which point I could potentially see a breakdown, a bounce back up, because on the 4-hour time frame and potentially around about the 1-hour time frame, you can see some of these oscillators are actually quite beat down. However, if you come to the higher time frames, as we're about to look at on the weekly time frame, these oscillators are very, very overextended. So this is what I'm seeing. 4-hour time frame, we've got a lot of divergences and we've got a lot of last lines in the sand. And in my opinion, I think we're going to start breaking down to about 2150. If we lose 2150 here is what could happen. Now we're going to move on to our next chart. There's another divergence. Once again, this is another classic case of regular bearish divergence, but this is slightly more powerful because we're looking at the OBV, the on-balance volume. The on-balance volume has been heavily deteriorating since the bull market top for Solana. We've been making new lows, lower highs, unlike the price action, which just made a higher high on the weekly time frame. Now, once again, classic case of regular bearish divergence. Because volume is so weak in this markets right now, because we're seeing the on-balance volume deteriorate to the downside, it's only going to take a small amount of selling volume to come into this market and overpower the buying volume to absolutely capitulate us to the downside. As you can see, these aren't particularly huge volume candles, but because the OBV was so weak, it didn't take much volume to rocket us back up to the upside. So this is what I want to show you. There are tons of divergences taking place in Solana right now. And also, if we are looking at the weekly time frame, stochastic RSI is coming to the downside. The last time this came to the downside from this sort of level, we witnessed a crash of about 51%. Since we've had this cross right here, we're only down 7%. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory what I think about this most recent cross. Now, like I said, weekly is coming down, daily is coming down. We've got a lot of room to move down on the daily. 4-hour time frame, we are relatively near a bottom. So this is kind of why I believe that we could see a tiny bit more of a deterioration in price in the next 24 to 48 hours, potentially see a bounce and a reset back up to, 23.50, something like this, retest the trend line before really starting to come down to the downside. Remember, these oscillators in the higher time frames are letting us know that this macro breakdown is just getting started for Solana. In terms of the weekly time frame as well, you can see that we quite recently got rejected from this big volume cluster, the same volume cluster as the FTX collapse was traded in, and we're now moving down to another level to the downside. If we lose $20.30, then we are probably going to witness a very quick whiplash to the downside. Now, I know I've just mentioned so many price targets, and I don't want to drown you ahead. I don't want you thinking, oh, this guy said, 23.50 and then 22.50 and then 22 and then 21, then 20. Really, this is the major chart I'm looking at right here. I want to give you one price target, and the most important price target that you need to keep your eyes on. This is the weekly support, which is holding for the EMA ribbons and the bull market support bands. Keep your eyes on $21.50. In the higher time frames, that's what you need to keep your eyes on. If we break beneath that, probably expect a major move back down to the downside. In the lower time frames, once again, just remember round about this $23. If we see deterioration, it's probably going to be nasty for the price action. Now, in terms of the weekly time frame as well, before we move on to the on-chain, you can see quite recently with this rally, we got stopped out at the 618 fib and we're losing the 0.5 Fibonacci. So in the higher time frames, there's a lot of bearish signals flashing right now as we are getting rejected from this major resistance, which is very important from a market maker perspective, from a news perspective, from a volume profile perspective. And we've got all of these divergences forming while we are running into this resistance. Guys, whether you're looking at the lower time frames, the higher time frames, whether you're looking at guidance from the Ethereum pairs, whether you're looking at the total altcoin market, these are all kind of letting us know that Solana should be coming to the downside at some point very soon. Now let's wrap up the video with the on-chain metrics, because there's a lot of nasty things happening right now. Now, I don't particularly want to look too much at the charts on the monthly time frame, because obviously this will be registering results for August, and we're only about halfway through August. But what we can do is we can look at the daily ones, such as using the 7-day moving average. Now, if we're looking at the non-vote transactions on the Solana network, you can see these have just capitulated beneath the February lows in 2023. So the non-vote transactions, meaning transactions that don't have anything to do with validators or staking on the network, things like NFT purchases, things like transfers of Solana, things like deposits of Solana, etc. You get my gist. Things that actually show network activity, not including the non-vote transactions. These are coming down to new bear market lows. If we are looking at the active addresses on the Solana network, you can see this hasn't quite made new bear market lows, but it is very deteriorated, especially if we're looking at all-time activity. If we're looking at the number of active addresses on the Solana network monthly, this is a little bit shaky, because once again, I want to emphasize that we're only halfway through the month. We could see a lot more activity coming through the rest of the month, but just taking on average, the previous bear market lows around about 7.7 million. At this moment in time, we're just beneath 4 million. Now, if we come over to the new addresses on the Solana network, you can see this is just broken down in terms of the daily into new bear market lows. Once again, we haven't had the rest of the data for the monthly come through, but previous bear market lows were at 3.3 million, and right now now we're at 1.3 million, meaning we would need to see a whole 2 million new addresses come in the next 14 days, or we will have new bear market lows in this regard. And once again, I understand we're only halfway through the month, so it's a little bit unfair potentially. Maybe it's a bit premature to look at the monthly value moved on chain. But guys, right now, this is absolutely diminished. We're sitting at round about 14 billion worth of value moved on the Solana chain, and the previous bear market lows were in January round about 37 billion. So we are really beat down right now. If we're looking at all time, you can see value moved on chain. This is like an ant down here compared to the previous value moved on chain. Now, am I saying this is never going to come back? I'm not saying that. I'm a big proponent of the Solana ecosystem. I think Solana is going to do extremely well in the next cycle, which is why if you did watch my previous video on Solana, I know it's been a little while since we covered it. My previous video was set your buy orders for Solana. I know I've got my buy orders set. If we do come over once again to the weekly time frame while we are wrapping up the video, I think Solana is going to be coming down to the psychological level of $5, and I think its potential we come down to round about 450 where this huge volume profile is. This is personally where I've got a lot of my buy orders set for Solana, but yeah, I just wanted to let you know in terms of the lower time frames, higher time frames, altcoin market, on-chain, divergences, volume, a lot of things are not shaping up too well for Solana at this moment in time. So that's why I've got my buy orders set. This is why I think we're about to see a major move back down to the downside for Solana. And I think if you are a Solana bull, you are probably about to be in a lot of trouble. So for today, my friends, that is all I've got. Hope you enjoyed the update. If you did, you know what to do. Make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, share the videos with your friends. Turn notifications on so you don't miss any of my future updates. Make sure to follow me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy for some extra content. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I will see you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.